What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to World According to Briggs. Let's talk about decent and affordable places you could buy a home in Washington state. Washington is one of our states that overflows with natural beauty, from the Puget Sound to the Cascade Mountains to the grasslands of eastern Washington. The evergreen state has something for everyone to look at, I promise you, and that includes affordable houses in nice areas. Because of this, Washington has always been one of the most moved to states, at least the last, I'd say, 2 decades. And that's not just the Bigfoot hunters and loners that have a bone to pick with the government and go live in the woods. They have a bunch of that too. But I'm talking about us normal folks that just want to buy a house and live in peace without Bigfoot or anger issues towards the government. In the past, we've done lists about states where you can get a decent house for under $250,000 and under $200,000. Washington is a little more expensive than past states, so it's hard to find a really decent home for $200,000 or less. In a decent area, I should say. You can find them, I just don't know if you'd really want to live there. That being said, today we're looking at nice places with decent homes for around $300,000 in Washington state. All right, let's see what we found. Number 10. Pacific. Yes, they have a city called Pacific. That's it. It's not that big, but it's there. Pacific is a town of just over 7,000 residents east of Tacoma and just south of Auburn, Washington. It's not a bad place to live if you don't mind rain. They get a bunch of it. As a matter of fact, they had record-breaking rains in November of 2006 that pushed the White River over its riverbanks along the Pacific City Park, creating a temporary 25-acre lake. Within hours, developers tried to advertise lakefront property they had for sale. Just kidding, but I wouldn't doubt they'd thought about it. Can we just keep the lake and put some houses here? People will buy them. That's how they are. The livability score in Pacific is 79, which is solid. Anything above 75 is good. Anything below 70, you might want to avoid. The population here, like I said, is 7,042 residents. That's the 2020 numbers. Now, they say the median home value is $211,000. Median rent price here is about $1,075. That's just the median. But you can get a fixer-upper in Pacific for around $280,000. A nice, ready-to-move-in house is gonna be about $380,000. I looked around. You can find them between $320,000 and $380,000 that are ready to move in. But like I said, they get some rain issues and they always seem to have problems around the White River. So keep that in mind. The Mud Mountain Dam on the White River in 2009 that has a reservoir behind it, they had to release a bunch of water so the dam didn't collapse and it caused massive flooding. So keep that in mind. Maybe buy a house that's a little above ground, you know? Number 9. Orting, Washington. Orting is a nice town that sits along the Puyallup River with great views of Mount Rainier. This city of 7,254 residents is sort of weird. I say weird because I've been here and I thought the place would have a high cost of living and expensive housing. It just looks like it should, and it's really not. They do, well, I think they got rid of it, but back around 2015, 2014, they had this really cool old bridge, and I remember they were doing construction, getting rid of it soon. It's too bad, it was really neat. Anyway, I did the research for this video some months back, and they had some very affordable, nice homes for sale. Currently, they don't have a lot for sale, but that could change, you know, next week or next month, something like that. That's just how it is. Orting has a livability score of 73. Now, the median home value, they say, is $207,000. And the median rent is $1,446. But on normal times, you can get a fixer-upper here for around $280,000, but a nicer home's gonna be $310,000 on up. A lot of them seem to hover around $400,000 for the really nice homes here. That's not terribly expensive for how nice this town is. Number 8, Battleground, Washington. Besides having a really cool name, it's kind of a really cool place to live. Battleground is a town of about 18,000 residents near the Portland, Oregon metro area. It's just north of Vancouver, Washington. I know a couple that lives there. This is one of the places you move to when you don't feel like getting price gouged by Portland housing prices or Oregon taxes. It's definitely not a bad place to live. The median home value here is $223,000. Now, realistically, you're looking around $320,000 to get something livable and decent, but a majority of the houses are in the $400,000 area. The median rent here for a 1-bedroom is $963 a month, and the livability score is 80. Definitely a good place to live. Number 7, Kennewick, Washington. Kennewick is a nice place to live. A lot of people enjoy living here. It's right on the shores of the Columbia River, and it's got pretty much middle-of-the-road stats across the board. Crime's not terrible. It's kind of middle of the road. Cost of living's kind of middle of the road. Employment's kind of okay. Housing, it's kind of cheap. And The schools are kind of middle of the road also, but what they do have A pluses in, the residents really love the place and they got a lot of things to do. It's kind of hard not to find something to do in Kennewick when you got the Columbia River flowing right through town. It's a great place. A lot of things to do, fishing, boating, whatever you want to do, or you could just stay on the shore and look for bones. Yeah, Kennewick is where they found the Kennewick Man. This is probably the most complete Paleo-American man ever found. They found him on the banks of the river. They figure he's at least 9,000 years old. He didn't look a day over 8,000 years old. That's how well preserved he was. Kennewick has about 77,000 residents, so it's pretty much a city. The median home value here, they say, is $174,500. Realistically, you could find decent places to live here for $275,000, but you probably want to start looking in the 320 area to get something really decent. And it goes up. Rent hovers around $831 for a 1-bedroom in Kennewick. One thing I did notice, they have a lot of like fixer-uppers that probably aren't in the best part of town. You can get them for like less than $100,000, and they had more than a few. They also have a lot of open land you could buy. And in case you ever take the Amtrak, let's say you're going east from Portland, this is like one of the first stops you get off and relax and actually stretch your legs a little bit. Number 6, Spokane Valley, Washington. Spokane Valley is like the last good-sized town you hit before you get into Idaho. My wife has some family that lives in this. I've been married 27 years, so I guess technically they're almost like my family at this point, but they've lived here for years and they love it. The livability score in the Spokane Valley is 79. The population is 93,322, so they almost fall into that category of a actual city. Now I say by all measurements because some people consider it a city when it's over 20,000. Some people don't consider it a city till it's over 100,000. Everything below 100,000 to a lot of people is considered a town, so that's why I say it that way. Spokane Valley is right next to Spokane. Right now you're looking at video of Spokane because I like Spokane better. It's got my favorite waterfall right here. And if you ever take that train east from Portland or Seattle, when you get to Spokane, don't plan on taking any pictures because it's like 1 in the morning when you get there. You're probably going to be asleep. But if you ever get a chance, visit Spokane and the Spokane Valley. The median home value here, they say, is $169,900. But realistically, it's not that bad here. You could actually find fixer-uppers that'll probably need more work than you want to get involved in for about $130,000. But around $200,000, you can get something that's not going to need a bunch of work. The nicer homes start at about $300,000 and go on up. Now, the only downside of this place, it has a little more crime than I'd like to have in a city I'm suggesting to people, but it's getting better. When Spokane Valley was actually incorporated, it was the 3rd largest newly incorporated city in U.S. history. Normally, towns are incorporated when they've only got like 10,000 people or less. They had over 80,000 residents when they decided to incorporate. Some of those residents are actually from their minor league baseball team. I read an article about them. They're called the Spokane Indians. And when all these teams were getting pressure about changing their names from Native American names, I remember seeing a thing, and I don't know what the guy's function was with the team, and he goes, yeah, we understand all that, and we understand the sensitivity it is towards the subject, but yeah, we're not going to change it. That's exactly how he said it. I was like, oh, okay, he's not changing it. The guy could have been the owner for all I know. Number 5, Pasco, Washington. Pasco is right across the Columbia River from Kennewick and is another city in what they call the Tri-City area. And it also has the Snake River to its southeast. You know, it's been over 40 years, but whenever I see, hear, read, or think about the Snake River, I also think about Evel Knievel. It's weird, I know. The livability score in Pasco is 72, and they've got a population of 68,567 people. It's not too expensive to buy a house here either. The median home value is $166,400. Realistically, you're looking at a fixer-upper might run you a little over $100,000, $120,000, something like that. The nicer homes start off at about $300,000 and go on up. The only real knock about Pasco, statistically speaking, is their schools. They kind of get a big fat F. Number 4. Town and Country, Washington, is a census-designated place north of Spokane with about 5,000 residents. On maps and things like that, it's called Town and Country, but the locals call it Linwood for some reason. My granddaughter does that. She meets little girls or little boys at the park, and they'll say their name. Hi, my name's Jacob. She just gives them another name and keeps using it. She had one little girl not too long ago, kept calling her Lulu. The little girl kept going, my name's Christine. It was hysterical. Well, anyway, the locals around Town and Country have the same affliction as my granddaughter. The livability score in Town and Country, or Linwood, is 81. Like I said, they got a population of just over 5,000 with 5,048. The median home value here, $163,400, which isn't terribly high. The median rent price here is about $910. A fixer-upper realistically is going to be somewhere around $230,000, and the nicer homes start off around $300,000 on up. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the whole place is only 1.4 square miles of land. That's it. And part of it is a cemetery. Number 3. Clarkston, Washington. Clarkston is a town of 7,314 people on the Snake River and Idaho border. It is directly across from Lewiston, Idaho. Get it? Clarkston, Lewiston, as in Lewis and Clark? Yeah, they named these two towns after the famous explorers who floated on by here around 1805. The livability score here is 72, and the median home value is $127,500. You can get a fixer-upper here for about $130,000, and that's pretty much all they have are fixer-uppers. They don't have a lot of new homes being built in Clarkston, and it normally wouldn't be a place I'd recommend, but they have a lot of land for sale. Between $22,000 and $90,000, you can get anywhere from half an acre to a full acre. But if you do find a new home, it's going to be over $400,000. Number 2, Grandview, Washington. Grandview is a great place for someone that doesn't need a job, like retirees or remote workers. Grandview is nice, quiet, safe, and affordable. All their stats are good except for schools and jobs. So, I mean, if you don't have kids going to school, don't worry about it. And if you're a remote worker, again, don't worry about it. This is a great place to live, especially when you see how cheap it is. First of all, they have a livability score of 72. Their population is 11,098 people. Median home value here is about $124,400. Now, you can get a fixer-upper for around $90,000 to $100,000, depending on what you find. It's going to need a little work. But they have a lot of land for sale, just like Clarkston, anywhere from $70,000 to $130,000. So if you want to buy a tiny home, you want to build your own home, this is great. But the nice homes that are for sale here start off around $300,000 and go on up. And they got some decent ones. One thing I noticed is 90% of the places here have like a quarter an acre, it seems like. All the houses with big lots. Grandview is basically a farming community. Apples, cherries, Concord, wine grapes, hops, asparagus, corn, wheat, and they even got some dairy farms, so choose your home cautiously. If you've ever lived downwind from a dairy farm, you know what I'm talking about. This is a neat piece of trivia. They gave it the name Grandview because of its views of Mount Rainier and Mount Adams. So that's kind of cool. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There's a link down below. Check it out. Subscribe if you like. Give a couple videos a big thumbs up. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Oak Harbor, Washington. Oak Harbor is Whidbey Island's largest incorporated city. It's named for the oak trees, which are all around the island, and the city's growth coincides with two major events: the building of the Deception Pass Bridge on July 31st, 1935, and the completion of the Naval Air Station, Whidbey Island, on September 21st, 1942. That's still there. Actually, they're both still there. This is probably one of my favorites on the whole list. I've been here a few times, not long enough to really get a good feel for living in Oak Harbor, but it's a great place. Whidbey Island in general is just a nice place. Oak Harbor has 23,565 residents. That's of 2020. They gain about 1,000 or 2 every single census, so it's growing, just not terribly fast. The fact that it's out of the way plays into that, obviously. I'm sure if this place was a little bit closer or easier to get to, it would be overrun by now. Oak Harbor has a nice little downtown. Their street there, Pioneer Way. It's filled with shops, as you can see from this Google Maps view. Pretty nice place. Definitely a good place to spend the weekend or move to eventually. Oak Harbor has a livability score of 77, which is solid. The median home value here is $226,000, but you can get a fixer-upper for around $150,000. They don't have many, but they do pop up occasionally. You can get a decent home for about $300,000, but the nicer ones start around $400,000 and go up. But this is a great, quiet little community. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.